We're rolling.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Nerdbuzzed!
Nerdbuzzed doesn't condone the consumption of alcohol by any persons under the age of 21. Please drink responsibly.
Welcome to Nerdbuzzed, the podcast where we talk about all the nerdy stuff that we care about and drink a cool frosty brew while we're doing it. I've changed it to brew because we're mixing in things other than beer now.
Yes, we are.
Yes. I'm your host, Marcus Ellinger, and with me as always,
Jeremiah Johnson.
And we have another guest in the Nerd Room. And our guest is...
Dan Macken.
Thank you for joining us, Dan.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Well, you might want to save your thanks till the end.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'll try to contain myself until we've fully fleshed out what this is going to be. All right.
So before we get too far, because I always talk too much and I digress, we go over to Jeremiah.
For the brew.
For the brew.
Nice.
That's my favorite part.
Yes. We were talking a little bit about it before.
We were.
It sounds really interesting.
Yes. So we've got to thank Eric Newquist of Aesir Meadery.
Thank you, Eric.
Aesir Meadery.
Yes. Thank you again. Really awesome guy.
Aesir,
go check him out.
Something like that.
I'm pretty excited about it. I'm a big fan of mead. And I admittedly, I'm very much a layman, but I sure like the taste. So
As
fan.
we are. And we are progressing out of that soonish. Slowly.
We've kind of gotten a crash course.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we've got a variety of Eric's concoctions, brews, whatever you want to call them here.
Masterpieces.
He is.
Yes.
The guy is an artist.
What is it, the proper term would maybe be libation?
Libation.
Perhaps?
That would be
Nice.
a great term for it. Thank you. Somebody's done more reading here than the rest of us.
all of it's had pictures, so.
Yeah, awesome. Okay.
Nice. But, so we've got a variety. None of them are straight honey mead. It is, they're all flavored meats. So we've got everything from sour to really sweet, a little bit drier, and some pretty interesting flavors in between. If you want me to go through them, I can real quick.
Yeah,
Please.
go down the list.
Over here we have the sour plum, which is very sour. Next to it we have the citrus mead, which is a semi-sweet. It's a little on the drier side. It's lemons and oranges, I believe, with it. Next to that we've got the Golden Plum, which is a pretty sweet one. Then the...
Sweet and sweet.
Yes. It's a sweet fruit with a sweet mead.
Yeah.
So anyway, then the sarsaparilla root, and then the licorice root.
Which is my personal favorite.
Or I guess it'd be sarsaparilla, then licorice root, whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm looking
I
forward
love that sarsaparilla, by the way.
I haven't had it yet. I'm excited.
Yes, you did.
Did I have it?
Yes, it's one of the ones he dug out and we got to get all.
Oh, that's right. That was later.
Yes.
Was that in the after party?
Might have been, yeah.
Yeah. My palate was a little fuzzy. Along with my memory, apparently. But we totally want to say a big thank you to Eric. Go see him down in Everett. Go to aesirmeadery.com. Go try his mead. Mead is super good.
It is.
Super
It's
amazing.
really good.
And I've been treating it more like a treat. It's not quite like my beer.
No. I did, however, have one session where I popped a cork and sat down and drained the whole bottle in 2 hours without realizing it. Yes.
And you still remember doing it, though. So
Well,
that's
yeah, I
impressive.
just stood up to use the restroom and was like, whoa, what's going on here?
the room.
And I look
Yeah.
over. I didn't drink that. Oh,
Wait, I did.
I did. The whole bottle.
A mix of shame and pride flowed over.
Yep. Yeah.
Pretty
like
much.
That, yeah. Should we do the licorice one first since we got it warm here?
Sure, let's do it cold first.
Okay, let's do
All
it
right,
cold
let's pop the
first.
cork.
God, he's just gonna make us wait forever.
You know, the best
Because
things come to those.
I
who
was
wait.
just gonna say, right?
I'd like to think so anyway. Now this is interesting though, also because you brought in some warm water to put some of the meat in earlier. That's been sitting for a little while, and we're going to try it cold and warm. Is that correct?
Yes.
'Cause
Yes.
I'm completely new to the idea of warm mead.
So
I've had it cold many times, but
So like most alcohols out there, like sake, you drink sake warm.
yeah.
Lower quality sake is traditionally served warm because it masks a lot of the flavors that most people don't care for. So like I said, that's a warm one. There are some wines, like mulled wines and stuff, that you'll drink warm and stuff to get certain flavor compounds out of it and pair it differently with what you're eating. Beer, cold. Wines, usually room temperature.
That's interesting, though. I wonder if, because I know that in a lot of other countries they drink their beer warm, like lagers and stuff like that. They'll drink them warm, but
they're not warm. They're warmer than what we drink them at.
yeah, room temperature, basically room temperature or less. Probably?
It depends on which kind of beer it is, and we've covered that in some of the past episodes. Like your barley wines and stuff is traditionally like 58 degrees, between 54 and 58 degrees is like where you want to drink that one. A couple of them you want to be like in the 48, 49, 45 degree range, which is a lot warmer than what we're going to drink them at. We usually drink them right at like the 33 degrees.
Yeah.
So
the more you know.
Well, and you really, and it, even with the beer, like usually we drink beer on the show. Please pour.
okay.
Yeah.
But usually,
man is thirsty.
right? Yeah. But usually we drink beer, and so when we do it, we always like smell it, look at it, taste it, and then at the end of the show, we drink it again and review it, because even just that temperature change throughout the show will bring out totally different flavors in the beer,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of, we'll get the super extreme of that here, having the cold versus the hot.
And,
My favorite way to have this which is the licorice mead, is actually room temperature, because you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Okay.
But it's fun to get the extremes also.
And like I said, it'll pair completely differently with foods. The flavors will be completely different. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Our minds have recently been blown by mead introduction.
Well, I now know about 100% more than I knew 10 minutes ago. So.
Awesome. Sweet. So let's cheers this one.
It's on the
so
wall.
it's on the wall. We'll kind of do it together. No pressure. Everybody messes it up. We'll do it again at the end, and we'll have it down.
Are we trying to say this in sync? I assume we're looking at the post there below by the wetlands.
Yep. So to all the nerds,
Through
all
all
the
the
fuzz, bottoms up, let's get nerd buzzed. Clankety clank, because we're civilized.
Go.
To the nerds. It's very licoricey.
It's very smooth.
Yeah.
It is.
It's very smooth.
I think that's one of my favorite things about the mead that Eric makes, is that it's very well rounded, and it's almost just like complimentary of itself. It's done really, really well. Nothing harsh, very balanced.
Yeah.
Which is something I look for in just about anything that I drink.
I love that slow, warm
Yeah.
in the chest feeling. That one's really, really smooth. It's a nice little thing.
Yeah. And well, this covers the whole spectrum here. So the only thing we won't have is a really, really dry one, which almost would have been worth getting one of those ones from the store for.
Oh, I'm going back.
There's
I'm going to come see you again, Eric.
always
No, but I mean,
Yeah,
not one of Eric's, one of the other ones that are really dry.
Oh, yeah.
Just as a comparison.
Yeah.
Like we needed any more today, though.
Yeah, right?
And this is the same
So,
thing
yeah.
warm.
So this is the same mead.
Yeah, it's my glass.
Oh, sorry. I was just getting it for you because I'm a
Thank you.
gentleman. Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. So same exact mead.
Okay.
Heat it up. I don't know how much top of that is, but it's...
Yeah.
Ooh, it smells different even.
I see what you mean.
It's like really different, huh?
Yeah. It's it's like I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but like warming up like apple juice or something like that. If you got like a scratchy throat or something like that, you like warm up apple juice or grape juice or something like that, and then drink it. You kind of it's really sugary and sweet, and it kind of coats your throat and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of reminds me of that quite a bit. It's like it's got a real candy kind of flavor to it.
Yeah.
It's the licorice, right?
Yeah, the caramel flavors come out real
Real
strong,
strong, yeah.
when it
Yeah.
warms up.
That's interesting.
I really enjoy this one because of its such drastic differences when it's hot and cold. It's almost like you get two bottles in one.
Yeah. Actually,
really cool.
That's a twofer.
Totally, right? Win-win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Well, like we
I
said,
could get in trouble with that real quick.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Totally could. My first time I introduced that when I had my dad over, and he poured himself this big glass of mead, and I was like, all right, well, now let's try some warm stuff. And I went to grab his glass, and he's like, no, just go warm up another glass. So he just pounded these two big glasses, and he drank half my bottle of licorice mead in one sitting.
God.
I drank the other half, so I'm also guilty.
Oh, okay.
But it was
pretty
awesome.
good. That was really good. It actually it's probably just maybe because it's warmer. It seems like maybe it evaporates off the tongue a little faster, so it kind of has a little bit of a drier quality by being warmed up. Also, maybe.
Yeah, it does. I do think that
Maybe
when they're
I'm-
warm, they tend to bring out a little more of the alcohol
It could be.
to it a little bit.
Very good.
Yeah, I really enjoy this one warm and cold.
I like this one more
Right?
better.
Yeah, you got to go check them out down there. It's this awesome place, just kind of down this back alley in Everett. I call it the Mead Cave.
Okay.
I got news. It's totally like this garage door that opens
Is
up.
it like a thing? Like there's a bar up in Bellingham called the Honeymoon. That's a cider and mead bar, and they're also in an alley.
I think it's
nice.
Eric was telling me it has something to do with getting established as like a licensed brewing place. You have to be established for a year, I think is what it was, and so it's because it's cheap that way.
Yeah.
You know, instead of getting
Makes
this
sense.
big business and then having it fail because you went too big too soon or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
So not only does mead taste good, but it's created by people with wisdom.
Right?
Correct.
Totally.
Great business sense, clearly.
Right? Yeah.
He's
So-
pretty cool, smart guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're saying all this because we want more free booze.
That too. Yeah.
I paid for all
He
this.
picks up on the hit.
He paid you
Except for
like-
this one.
Yeah.
Well, again,
Yeah.
that one's yours. But I have the matching bottle down here.
Yeah.
Right on.
yeah.
Right on.
So we're going to keep drinking more mead because that's what you do with it. And it's awesome.
You want to go to the other end of the spectrum right now, and then that's what we can sip on while we're talking?
Sure. Yeah, go for
All
it.
right, go ahead and
Fire us
pop
up.
that one and pour some of that one.
I'm going to let you pour it.
All right.
Are we gonna do
You're the
warm
beer guy.
and cold again?
If you can,
We
if
can.
You can sample
can
any
try.
one of them you want that way, and see any.
I would like to try. I would like to try it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have not tried this
If
one
See if
personally.
it's still got the same amount of difference in it.
Both
Would be-
ways.
Would be fascinating.
This one. This one's going to be a little. If you don't like sour, is going to be a little.
Wait. Don't mix.
Oh. I didn't see.
You need to finish your drink, sir.
Yeah.
I need your
this
square
is-
one.
You need the what?
The square one. That's the warm one.
Yeah, we don't want to put cold in though.
Oh, yeah,
Cold and warm.
that would be,
You like the way he planned that all out? What a dude.
He did. He's very wise.
Wow. You clearly don't know me.
We'll see if he's still saying that by the end, right?
I'm a guest here.
And speaking, I'm glad that we brought it all back to you because I do want to also give you a chance to promote yourself. We love you, Eric, and we're totally going to keep going and drinking your mead and checking you out. But you are the owner of Docking Bay 93,
Yes.
and I have to say it's completely one of my favorite nerd shops to go into.
Well,
I
thank
was
you.
going to call it comic book store, but it's really more than that.
It is more than that. It's
I
kind
like
of
the arcade in the
it's
back.
kind of, almost four things in once, really. We got a lot going on in there. For the amount of square footage we have, I think we've got probably more going on in there than we really should
Are you ready
have.
finally?
What's that?
That's
You quieted down long enough to.
to drink, right? Because I talk too much.
Yeah.
But that was actually, and I mentioned it before the show, and I totally mean this in the politest way, complimentary way possible. But one of the things I love about your store is that it has that kind of old school nerdy feel to it, and it reminds me of when I was a little kid, like going into like just like because I've been in other like really big comic book shops where everything's just super straight and cleaned and just like everything's on these like big fancy displays and there's all these places to sit and drink coffee or whatever and like that's all great too, but I just love that like comic book store roots feel that your shop has.
Yeah, it's it's funny. It's like every time, up until just within the last couple of years, if I was feeling kind of down about where I was working, I'd go visit another comic book shop and I'd be like, we're doing okay.
Yeah.
And then there's sometimes I go into a comic book shop and I walk around like when there's some stores that have opened up around the region and whatnot, and I'll walk into them for the first time and be like, I need to go home. I need to vacuum.
Yeah.
Like
There's a line there.
there's
for
a
sure,
line.
yeah.
There's definitely a line, and we've courted that line, both directions on several occasions. But we've got so much stuff in there that it's we really do need to kind of expand. But I think we've maximized the sales space about as much as we can, and it's kind of split into three parts for as far as the sales floor goes. And we've kind of made the comic books the centerpiece of the store. I think we probably have as good, if not a better, selection of comic books than anybody in the region would be my guess. I think I took a real quick rough count. If we front faced every single book we had that we get on a monthly basis, all current titles, and we don't like double stack them or anything like that, we have enough room to have about 512 titles comfortably sitting on the shelf at any given time.
Wow.
And that's current books. That's not stuff that's gone out of print or that's just sitting there for months and months and months
Yeah.
on end. That's stuff that's running right now.
Yeah.
That's a lot of books. Most places that I've seen, not to put, my store on any kind of a pedestal or anything, they organize their stores a little bit different, but you have to give up a little bit more space for it. We've kind of tried to maximize space, so when people come in, if they're willing to dig a little bit, there's a lot of variety in there. And with the comic books the way they are, when I took over the store in 2007, I wanted the comic book shop, or I wanted the comics to be kind of the centerpiece, and so we kind of built everything around that. And then ideally, the way I wanted the store to be set up was that any part of the store could cover for the other two parts of the store. So it's split into 3 spots, like I said. So we have the centerpiece is like the comics. We have that big center island, which is now grown into, basically 2 aisles.
Yeah.
And then we have the collectibles on one side, where we've got statues, we've got all those DC Directs, we've got Kotobuyuki, we've got a lot of model kits, we've got Marvel Legends, we've got all those different brands that are being carried, a lot of DC Direct stuff. So we have the collectibles and toys, and then we have the gaming section as well. And we've got
which is what I noticed right away.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate how you had all that there. You also have the paints and everything else for it.
Yeah, we've got a lot of the tabletop games. We carry Privateer Press, Games Workshop. We got a lot of board games. If I could do anything now, it would be if I could add space, it would almost be solely to add to the board game section, because it's such a cramped section now. It started off where I was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to fill all this, and like overnight I was like, I need more room, like immediately, like it's overflowing everywhere. And it's not like we've got games that are necessarily just collecting dust all the time. They turn over, they do sell, so they go out of stock, we bring them back in,
And I like how you have the space in the back also for people to play it too.
Yeah, we have the big game room in the back. We do Magic the Gathering tournaments. We do pretty brisk business for the card tournaments. We do a little bit with Pokemon. We haven't been dealing in any singles with that, but we're trying to kind of get a league going, and it's kind of like herding cats. It's a
generational thing.
It's kind of rough. But we've been doing like Warhammer leagues, and we have Hero Clicks, which has got a strong following, and we have a fantastic game night for Dungeons and Dragons, which I never thought we were ever going to have. We used to have like a gaming group would come in and play once a week, and those guys they'd have the normal sort of like weird things. People kind of get tired of each other, and they start having weird little gaming spats. Somebody decides, I'm going to kill the whole party, and they just ruin it for everybody.
Yeah.
And it started with guys. Yeah, it's like it started with stuff like that, and it's grown to where we got 4 games going actively on a Wednesday night. Like every time we got anywhere between 16 and 24 players back there, and everyone's having a great time. And that's awesome.
That's like
really awesome.
like the D&D equivalent of like rage quitting in a video game.
It is. It's something weird about it. But yeah, people are just like, I'm taking you all with me.
Yeah.
So
We're going down together.
Exactly.
Done with this.
Yeah.
It's like when the banker Monopoly just flips the money everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the classic arcade as well, which is there, too. And so that's got a ton of classic machines. We got 8 pinball machines running right now. And, we got the Pac-Man Battle Royale, which is just a fantastic amount of fun. So.
Yeah. I need to check out the arcade part a little more.
The arcade is it's a fantastic addition to the store, because there's no real arcades, like dedicated arcades around much anymore, especially ones that are quarter feed. And the fact that
that was something I wanted to ask you.
The arcade is actually a separate business. It's not mine. It's still owned by the people who owned Docking Bay 93 before I took over. And as part of our kind of handshake deal when I took over, which was about as much of a contract as we had, part of our agreement was that they had somewhere to keep their arcade, and they would run that and maintain it. And so, it's got some ebb and flow on the maintenance schedule. Sometimes things are working really good, and sometimes, things fall behind, and it just sort of, depends on their availability and availability of parts and stuff like that. So
I bet you on any given day it's all working better than the one in Stanwood. So
our local one.
You guys have one?
At the theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The little lame arcade that's there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But the ones you have are they're a little more like that golden era.
Yes.
Yeah, they're kind of classic. So
yeah.
late 70s, like early 80s stuff. Like there's
they had a bunch of that at one point in time.
Yeah, Miss Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, stuff like that. If people can beat my high score at Donkey Kong, I'll give you a free soda.
Awesome.
So there you go.
Nice.
My score's not very good. It should be pretty easy for most people.
All right, I like it. New challenge. I know
All
what
right,
I'm doing
there
next
you
time.
go.
Bring some corners.
Yeah. You can break my measly 130,000 on there. 1/4. That's all you need. Free soda.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to drink a little bit more of my mead here
Yes.
before I start talking a bunch. Woo! Which one was this?
This is the sour plum.
The sour plum. It's definitely sour.
Yes.
That's different.
Yeah.
It's almost acetic acid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do kind of like
actually.
it, though. I wonder if... I'm curious to try this one warmer, too. Our warmer is going to not be warm here pretty quick.
No.
We're going to run out of hot water.
Yeah.
I almost brought a little like hot plate. I was going to go steal from the shop so we could have just constant hot water.
There you
But,
go.
then I dropped the ball.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. So before we get too far, I do
Yes.
want to say your shop is on Stewart Road in Mount Vernon.
Yes,
Washington.
we're at 224 Stewart Road, Suite 115, Mount Vernon, Washington. If you're going through Mount Vernon, the easiest way to remember where it's at is it's near the Walmart, which it's down the street from there, right next to the river.
Yeah,
So
follow
it's
the
actually in between the I-5 Mount Vernon Bridge, or the I-5 bridge, and the Burlington Mount Vernon Bridge, facing the river.
Yeah.
So that's about the easiest, the two biggest landmarks you can find.
Yeah.
yeah. Just fall off a riverside before you go over the bridge.
Yeah. Yep.
You guys are open Monday through Saturday, 12 to 9,
We're open 7 days a week.
and then Sunday, 12 to 6.
Yes.
Right? Yep. And you guys are online, dockingbay93.com.
DockingBay93.com. The website's a little unpolished at the moment, which we're going to try to work on here real soon. Probably
Well,
because I just said that. But,
Well,
Facebook
you
is
know.
where a really good spot.
Yeah,
to
I was
go.
going to say,
Yeah.
definitely go to Facebook, check you guys out there.
It's constantly being updated.
Well, and the one thing, the thing that got me going to the shop was the Dark Knight 3 when that came out, the Master Race, right? I was a big Dark Knight fan from Returns and the other older comics.
Yeah.
So when I saw this happening, and I was like, all right, it's like the Lego crisis that happened again, right? I got one, totally got a taste for it again, and just
Yep.
everything downhill from there. I'm just
Down
stuck
the rabbit
again.
hole. Down the rabbit hole.
And so that was what it was for me. And one of the things I thought was really cool, I hope it's okay that I encourage other people to do it, but when I was in there and I was asking about comics that I would come across, and I would want to try to find them before they'd be out. You offer the drop box,
Yes, we do pull box subscription services.
which is super, super cool.
It's a very convenient way for most people to be able to keep up with their books.
Yeah.
And it actually helps the shops too. Whether you're shopping at my store or you're shopping at another store that's local to you, then asking them about their subscription service is a really good idea. Almost every comic book shop, any good comic book shop, does them, as far as I'm concerned, because that allows us to get a more accurate order numbers. So when we're ordering in new content and whatnot, we kind of get a little bit of demographic data from our local community, and then we can order more accurately for you guys, and you don't have to scramble for them on the shelf.
Yeah. Which is,
Nice.
and especially if there's like a big title or a big story arc that
Yeah.
comes out and you don't want to miss out on
Yeah.
whatever you've ordered, which I've done with you a couple times. And the way that I've done it, the guy in the shop totally said, hey man, just message me on Facebook.
Yep.
And I did that, and
Yep.
I went in later in the week, and they were already all right there in the box. So I didn't have to hunt the shelves. It was awesome.
Yeah, we do a pretty good job of staying up on our responses for the Facebook page. It's been a really good social media way for us to connect with our customers, which has been nice.
Yeah.
You know, for all your frustrations that you may have with that program and with that website, it's done us a lot of good. So
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was super convenient. I mean, and you guys, I mean, I've gone on and done it a few times now, and you guys are right away responding back with like, yeah, throw them in the box, man, no problem.
yeah, we usually keep the page just pretty much open all day long and just wait for it to chime at us, and then we just try to take care of it as soon as we can.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you are doing that. Nice job.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
It's been super cool. I think if it wasn't for that, I think I would have veered away from the rabbit hole a little bit more, right? But you keep sucking
Yeah.
me back in with the
That's
ease
the
of
idea.
that box, right?
You know, I am an enabler, and if I can get you addicted to, you know, the old paper crack,
yeah.
we'll do it. You know, we'll get you in on the comics and get you hooked on if we can.
So that's something I got to ask then. With the advent and the popularity that the superheroes have taken in mainstream medias, have you seen it as a hindrance or a help to your business?
That's a good question, and it's one I get asked a lot because a lot of people come in through the store who maybe haven't picked up comic books since they were a kid, or were just, trying it for the first time maybe, and they're like, wow, those Avengers movies must be doing you a lot of good for sales. No. Comic book sales don't really get affected much, in my experience, and any shop owner that I've ever talked to in any of their experiences, to generate sales directly for the current comic books. What it will do sometimes is when the trailers are running for it, it'll get people kind of excited about the stuff that maybe inspired that creation. The only movie that I can think of, the only movie that I can think of that has ever directly increased sales on any product for me in my store was the Watchman trailer.
Okay.
After that movie came out, all the sales for the products that Alan Moore did went straight back to what they were before. But that trailer, for whatever reason, was cut really good. It was just a really action-packed, fun trailer. And people got really excited about Watchmen. They'd come in, they'd buy Watchmen, and then be like, what else has this guy done? And so then it was, there's a dozen other books you could recommend after that. So that translated into some really strong sales. I know a lot of shops did really well for Wonder Woman, because that was that was sort of a thing that was a little bit outside of our normal demographic for viewership, which is a growing demographic, and most comic book shops and most retailers are realizing that girls like comics.
Yeah.
And having stuff on the shelf that, doesn't make it seem like such a dude's club all the time is really smart business.
Yeah.
Which is why we have that colossal manga section, for one thing, because that's, predominantly a female audience in the United States, it seems like. So
I noticed a lot of them were geared towards that when I was looking at them. Like,
quite a lot of time.
Not the ones I read. No, not the
Yeah.
ones I read.
Yeah.
No, not the ones I read.
That's one thing that's actually really interesting about Japanese comics, and in particular, is they've got a huge breadth of genres out there. It's not just action, adventure, sci-fi, horror, which is pretty much what we have for the United States. They've got romance, and they've got LGBT stuff, and they've got everything, including those other basic groups as well. So, and some of the other publishers that are out there today, like Boom Studios and Aftershock and Image and whatnot, they're starting to see the writing on the wall there that some of the demographics are changing a little bit. And
that's another question I was going to ask you is, with the demographics, are you seeing the younger audience coming into American comics anymore?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And quite a lot of that is the same thing that got me into comics. It's like my first experience with the X-Men was the '92 X-Men that Jim Lee redid, that the cartoon was based off of.
Yeah.
That was kind of my first introduction to the X-Men. It wasn't the old 70s stuff and the 60s stuff from like the Stan Lee era and Jack Kirby eras. It was the 90s stuff. And to some degree, we see that still in play. It's the kids are coming in and they're looking for stuff that is based on the cartoons they've been watching. So they come in, they're looking for Teen Titans, or they're looking for other X-Men properties that more directly are something that they see on a regular basis. So with kids, it seems to be what's entertaining to them that's in the other media forms that you see, the stuff that's going to be on their backpack or their lunchbox and stuff like that. They're interested in those things.
I totally had a Justice League lunchbox.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So many superhero lunchboxes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had all those.
Oh, yeah. That's a big collector
With
market,
the
too.
awesome thermos that matched.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Of course.
My prized one was Dino Riders, and I love it. The thermos got broke, but I totally had Dino Riders.
Right on. I
You
think
can
I
only
had,
see like half of a dinosaur still because I had handled it so much they were all worn off.
I had Mask, I think. Was
Ah, nice. I had Mask also. That was a plastic lunchbox.
Yep. Yeah. The thermos eventually things started leaking, and
Yeah, of
it
course,
was pretty much
right?
done after that. Yeah.
With their like so 70s little brown flip top.
Yep.
Remember
yep,
that
yep,
thing?
yep.
That thing was so 70s.
It was good stuff.
It was super good. Yeah.
Nice.
Should we try it warm?
Already
We all get
I'm
to
gonna
try
have
it. You
a-
already did. Nice. You're ahead of us. And you've been talking. I don't know how you doing, Bull.
Talent. You got yours, I got mine.
So it's definitely not as warm as it was before.
No, but it smoothed that out
I was gonna
so
say, it
much,
really
and the
did.
barrel flavors come out incredibly strong.
Yeah.
You really get that toasted oak barrel in there.
I think I prefer this one warmer too.
I do too.
Yeah.
Definitely prefer that one warmer.
Now you got to try all your meads warm and room temperature and cold, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna be sitting up at one of the bars and be like, "Can you please give me a glass of warm water?"
Right?
Like, get out of here.
Well, if you do it, you got to pull your glasses down lower and look down at everybody.
Yeah,
right,
Be like,
yeah.
would you like a drinking horn, sir?
We can provide that too.
Yeah.
Right on.
And there was another question that you wanted to bring up about the digital media.
Yes. Has digital media been affecting you a lot, or is there subscription services that people can subscribe to in digital?
There's a few of the publishers out there that are doing both. They do a free digital download with the physical purchase.
Okay.
Which I think is really smart.
I like that.
I think that's a really good way for them to do it, because some people are buying them. They want to have, because regardless of how you're getting it, you're still paying for the book. So they want to have their physical copy too that they can keep in store, which I think is great. It still allows them to be a collector, which is an important part of the hobby, really.
Yeah.
It is.
And then I think, and I don't remember who the publisher was or who the editor was who was commentating on it, but they were talking about the digital comics and how it was eating into profits and all this. And the kind of general rule of consensus right now is that we've pretty well lost any customers that we were going to lose.
Okay.
So the bleed from that is pretty much run its course. The people that the folks that most places are catering to now are people who want to actually physically own a copy of comics. They're kind of curators by hobby.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I think that's pretty
Which is
awesome,
kind
then.
of what the hobby has become nowadays anyways. I mean, you have this great collection here. It's like you're curating a collection. It's like going into a small museum.
Well, and
I think that's kind of where the hobby for a lot of people have gone.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're actually that there's a new audience coming into it, and that it's
There's a lot more kids books out right now too, which is freaking fantastic. I'm so glad to see all ages books and young adult books that are being published, and I think there should be more.
And I've actually gone back and looked at these, brought up Teen Titans, watched some of the Teen Titans stuff. It's actually pretty good.
It's very good.
I'm actually really enjoyed.
It's very, very
what I've
good.
looked
I
at.
think
I scoffed it off as too young for me thing. And
one of the most violent things I've ever seen in a comic book. It was before New 52 came out. Was Teen Titans.
Okay.
And that book took a violent turn right before they ended it. It was shocking. Because the comic had been running, for so many years, and they did kind of like what they did with the X-Men, where they just it's always in this kind of contemporary time, and they kind of grew these characters up, and they grew up and they had relationships, and they moved on and all this stuff, but they were still the Teen Titans. And seeing a cast member die, maybe horribly and bloodily, it's like, whoa! It's like, where did that come from?
yeah.
But that's what they did. They matured the books.
And I love it when something that I've said it before on the show, but I love it when you're really into something as a kid or as you're growing up, and then that thing
It doesn't matter now.
It doesn't matter. Who cares?
It'll
Okay.
lukewarm it.
Then I'll come to the other one then.
But I love it when the thing you're into grows with you like that.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
it kind of
totally.
matures as you mature.
Did you watch that? I'm probably going to get the name wrong, but G.I. Joe did a Resolute. G.I. Joe Resolute by Warren Ellis did all the writing for it. Who's a fairly prolific comic book author, and they did a series of like 5-minute short cartoons that aired on Cartoon Network, and they were kind of like in between episodes. But if you string them all together, it's like a 45 or an hour long movie or something like that. And they'd taken those 1980s ideas and they just sort of matured them, with time. And so, characters would die. It's like there was consequences to them shooting at people, and it was
The lasers finally hit something.
Yeah, it's like there's you got to see Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes finally have their final battle. And it was just absolutely brutal. And it was like you watch the first 5 minutes of it, you're like, something awesome in my life just happened.
Yeah.
It's like, you're just like, this
Nice.
is what you want.
Good things come to those that wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Yeah. But it also speaks volumes to the power of the writer. The strength of having a really good author behind a story really makes a big difference.
I think, and especially in something like comic books or cartoons or anime or something like that, where, like, yeah, visually that helps, and like you want it to also be really visually appealing. But if the substance of it, the writing, isn't there, you can't just carry it on the images alone.
Yeah. And that's another big thing that's been really fascinating about the comic book industry in the last few years has been people really chase writers. Like, they're the big stars kind of right now. I mean, you still have a lot of amazing talent working in the comic book industry, like artistically, and I think it's a real renaissance for comics these last 7 or 8 years, because the writing is better. The artwork is far superior to a lot of what we see, especially from the big publishers. And they're doing stuff with the technology. They're taking it to a place that you can't go without utilizing those new techniques with computers and coloring and whatnot, and what they're able to do, because they have so much more forgiveness with what they're doing with their deadlines and whatnot. I think, because if you're drawing digitally, it's changes how you approach your artwork as well a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
the fundamentals are all the same, but being able to Control Z and get rid of a line that's not good, and instead of having to just put up with it because
Oh yeah, right. I would even think
rough.
like sending proofs to somebody and sending that back immediately digitally, like all those things. It's just happening super fast.
Which is really cool also, because I know that like writers and that was something that was kind of revealed during Emerald City Comic Con while I was down there last year listening to panels, was that how many of the artists and writers were just working concurrently together and just pitching ideas back and forth, and
Nice.
you just have these these teams of extremely creative people working together, and it's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely, and I love it when it is treated that way. It's like this art passion project that these two people are totally tag teaming together, for sure.
So which kind of mead is this?
This is the Golden Plum. So we just had the Sour Plum, now this is the Golden Plum.
It's very sweet.
Yeah.
It's very sweet, but what I really like about this one is you can taste the hive, like the waxy flavor of the honey in the hive. It's like a real natural honey flavor.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm super impressed with all of it. I really enjoy mead. It's done really well. He's done it really well.
Yes, he has.
Kudos, Eric.
Yeah, good job, Eric.
I did want to say, because I want to encourage people to go and buy tangible comics from your shop.
Yeah.
And I think that because I do, like, the digital thing is totally taking off, and I've jumped on the bandwagon with certain things, like music.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't, I'll buy single songs now, and just, like, I don't even necessarily buy full albums anymore. Yeah. So I'm more okay with music. I'm slowly coming around with movies. Not a season. Like, if it's a season of a show and they have the really nice display box and it's something that's worth being tangible, then I'm still totally down for that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like comic books, this re-inspiration into comic books has been very much kind of like the video game platform for me, where even the smells that it has is something I love, right? Like when you pull it out of that plastic wrap the first time and you open it, it's like that smell just floods childhood back into my brain. And when you read a comic digitally, they're typically single pages. So if you have a full panel image, that some comics are even awesome where like the cover will fold out. So you get like that first one that's like 3 images. Yeah. You cannot experience it the same way digitally that you can tangibly.
There's some, and I'm gonna spring to the defense of digital comics just a little bit, but with normal comics, they start off generally on 11 by 17, and then they shrink them down to fit. They shrink them down. So that's sort of the dimensions you're working with standardized comics. In digital comics, you're not constrained by any shape of the border. I mean, you can have comics where you have to scroll or you have to click and it flips another thing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they could do in digital comics that brings it just shy of being animation.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of interactivity that you can do, and there's a lot of formatting that they do, to make them more friendly for phones, where they scroll, down, or there's some versions that scroll to the side, and things like that, which is really fascinating, because you can't go as far as that because you're constrained by your binding and you're constrained by your dimensions of your book. However, that being said, I prefer reading a physical comic because I like to feel it in my hand. I like that textile, that feeling. I don't actually particularly enjoy reading it on the screen all at once like that. I like that my eyes don't want to follow in the same way when I'm doing that. I end up, scrolling around or messing around, and for me, I've just not trained my eye to it. It could just be that I'm kind of a Luddite and don't like technology very much, but I really like having a comic in my hands when I'm reading it. It really
me too,
feels
totally.
good.
It's almost like a way for you just feel more connected, I think.
No, definitely.
And I'm not trying to knock the digital media either. And I think that they could.
It has its place.
For sure. And I think that I could see something really appealing being about a comic that's maybe dedicated for digital media. Now it has these different avenues to it that you can't get in paperback, right?
Yeah, there's some spectacular things that you can do on either end, and you kind of have to pick your platform for the art that you're trying to portray. I mean, ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to a good artist is presenting a message. You're trying to tell a story, or you're trying to get a message across. To me, good artwork can convey a message as simply as possible and make it very clear to the reader that that's what you're trying to say. If you have to sit there and try to, extrapolate that from whatever they're doing, then it's kind of the message is muddied.
Yeah.
So having all these abilities and having these different formats, it gives our artists and our writers either working within constraints or working outside of constraints. It allows them to convey those messages more clearly. And so, depending on what they're trying to tell us, they need to pick the appropriate platform for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And there's always such a fine line for me about the conveyed message with comics, because, and we talked about this a lot, especially about like new movies, right? How everything is just so spoon-fed to you in new movies where there's not
a lot of challenge sometimes.
Yeah, nothing's left to your imagination as much as it used to be, or there's not as much between the lines as there used to be.
Yeah, there's some sort of a Grant Morrisism out there where it's something about, and he's got some sort of a phrase he's coined for it, but it's basically, for me, I like my sequential art to be very sequential. But if I feel like I've turned the page and I've missed something, like there's a page missing in here, Superman was on that side of town, now he's on the other side of the world, what's going on? There's kind of some sort of a terminology for basically the story in between the panels.
Yeah.
That you're supposed to fill in on your own. And with comic books, I like a little bit of that, but at the same time, I'm like, it's still sequential art. We're supposed to still be able to look at this and be able to see the progression of time through this kind of artist lens, And there's a lot of techniques that they can use in art to convey how time moves and how things are supposed to be progressing just by the way they shape the layout, which is really interesting too. There's some really cool reading out there about that too.
Yeah. I'm totally hooked on comics again. It's terrible. My wife is so happy about it. You were not going to get rid of me very quickly.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, right. So I did want to ask you also, how long have you owned the store?
I took over Docking Bay 93 on April 1st, officially, of 2007.
Really?
We thought that would be really cute. No one laughed because as soon as we told them, they're like, yeah, we know. It's like, really? They're like, we've seen you hanging around. We knew something was going on.
Yeah.
So nobody, we just thought everyone, we'd tell them, like, oh, yeah, new ownership. It's April 1st. Ha, ha, ha. And everyone's like, yeah, we know. We're like, okay. So I was like, well.
Do you guys do that every year now?
Oh, no.
Every year on the 1st, you should hang up.
We should have
ownership. It has to be a running joke.
It would be really fascinating to see how many people came in that I pissed off over the years to check and see if that was real. That would be fantastic. I would love to see that. Like, you owe me money. You left your whole box unpaid for. That would be great.
That's not an April
1st. Yeah.
I might need to write that down, actually.
Yeah, do it.
Change of ownership sign every April 1st.
Yeah.
So, 2007, I had a business partner named Jeff Bowers. He and I had worked at the movie theater over in Burlington, for quite a few years together. And then he left to go on to other things. At about October of that year, was it October of that year? I think it might have been October of that year. The economy took a dump, and we were kind of in a treading water sort of situation. We were both trying to work jobs and work at that place at the same time, and it just wasn't really working. And so I said, look, we're having some financial difficulties. Things are getting worse. One of us needs to become a silent partner and go get a real job and just work for themselves and, keep themselves above water, or one of us needs to buy the other out. And I said, if you want out, I'll buy you out. And he said, I've been looking to get off this sinking ship, and I bought him out. So I ran the store by myself for a couple of years, all on my own. And then I slowly kind of acquired a couple of helpers here and there, and just sort of drug it back from the brink.
Yeah.
And now we are at present time. So.
And so I assume then that you were always a fan of what you offer at the store.
Okay. So yes and no. I had been working at
I'm
the
assuming that
theater
most of the nerds listening are like, you own a comic book store? It's like the dream nerd job, right? Because it's more of a nerd store than just a comic. You have all sorts of stuff.
That's
so
usually
like...
what people say, but it's
Yeah.
like anytime that you're self-employed, you realize that sometimes your schedule and your ability to pay bills isn't necessarily up to you. It's dictated to you.
Yeah.
And so it was an awful lot of work just to get the place to not lose money every other month. And so far I've gotten to that point, but it was rough, and it was not so much fun. Now, I think when I took over the store, I was collecting 2 comic books at the time, and I had pretty much wasn't really doing any other hobbies except for the occasional model painting. So I didn't even know that the place had action figures until in an arcade, for quite a few years. Like, I never walked onto that side of the store. It never occurred to me to be really into that kind of stuff. So, after I took over, I realized just how much was involved and all the different aspects of what was going on there. But, to go back a bit, I had worked at Lowe's Cineplex when that, in Burlington when it first opened in 98. So I was part of that original crew, and I worked there all the way until December of 2008. So I'd worked there and at the comic shop at the same time. And I basically got tired of watching people I trained get promoted past me. Like, I was working in middle management. I was their booth operator. Yeah, I was a head booth operator there for quite a few years. I was their projection manager until they eliminated the position, and then they still had me doing the same job, only other stuff as well. And so, like I said, I saw people I had trained getting promoted past me, and I got tired of that. And I was like, well, they're either going to promote me or I'm going to go do my own thing. So during the off seasons, during the summer times, a lot of times I would go farm with my family in California. So I would go down there.
What kind of farm?
We did a lot of feed crops and some cattle and stuff. Not very many cattle at that time, but we did, alfalfa and mostly. And we were farming quite a bit of ground, and so they wanted me to come down there and farm full time with them. So I was like, well, either they're going to promote me into full management spot, or I'm going to go back to being a farmer full time, or I'm going to go try doing my own thing at business. And so, in passing, Rob, who owned the store, had joked about selling me the shop years ago. And I happened to mention that to Jeff one day, who was working for them on Sundays. And he said, oh, they've been trying to get me to buy the shop now for the last year. And I said, well, I tell you what, if you're actually interested in that, I'll go in out there as a partner, and we'll take over. And so we ended up doing that. And then, it all kind of went from there. But I left basically corporate America in order to be my own boss. Is essentially what I did.
Nice.
And, one of the best, worst decisions I ever made.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. I haven't been bored in 10 years. I've never gone to work and been like, this sucks.
Yeah,
like every
which
day
is
it's
huge.
been,
that is worth so much.
I'm surrounded by, entertaining things to do. There's video games, there's people to talk to. There's no reason to be bored. So.
Cool people to meet.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Mead to be had.
I have to ask you then, what were those 2 comics that you were collecting?
Previous to the location that Docking Bay had been in now, it had been over in Burlington. And it was over there near to the movie theater, actually, at the time. And I walked in there a day after Free Comic Book Day, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
And they had a couple of books left over, and one of them was Conan, the new Dark Horse #0 issue by Gary Nord and Kurt Busiek. And it just absolutely blew me away. The artwork in it was just absolutely stunning, and the writing in it was not any cartoony Conan. It was a barbarian's tale, and I was like, this is freaking cool. And I started a hold box for, Conan, and I was getting Conan. Then eventually, Docking Bay disappeared, and I thought, oh, they've gone out of business, and they always seemed like it was kind of an odd business the way they had it set up and stuff, and I wasn't ever, but they always seemed to do pretty good for themselves. And then one day they were gone. Well, it turned out that they'd moved the store, and I didn't even know. And so it was months and months, and finally I found out where they'd moved to, which was the current spot they're in. And I
Did
went
they
down
have all
there.
your comics in the box?
They
waiting?
did.
That's
They
so
did
cool.
actually.
So
they had all
cool.
my books. I was very happy. They had all my books, and so I went down there to pick them up, and I was looking at the shelf, and they had the new Batman on the shelf, the Grant Morrison run that was the son of Batman with Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
And again, I opened it up and I was like, this artwork is amazing. And so I decided to give it a try, and I added the second book to my pull list. And then, a few years later, I was buying a comic book shop.
Yeah.
So
You just added the whole shop to your box.
I was like, why
throw the whole
stop,
shop in
why
there.
stop there?
Yeah.
Why stop there? So, but I
Every
think,
collection.
yeah, I think a lot of the reasons that the store has been successful though is because I don't take a lot of it home with me, and I think that's where a lot of shops fail early on. And after we had approached them about taking over the store, they handed me a book and they said, "Go read this." And the title of the book, and I'm not even kidding, was "So You Want to Open a Comic Book Shop? Here's Why You Shouldn't." And so I read that, and it was just a tale of a fellow who had opened and closed several businesses over the years, and had finally opened a shop of his own and stuff. And one of the lessons in there was, you're probably wanting to get into this because you already collect a lot of stuff, and you're trying to find a cheaper way to do it. And I get approached by people every year or two, somebody who's asking to sell out, and that's usually my first question is, why are you wanting to do it, and I kind of end up sort of talking them out of it. Somebody threw enough money at me, I'd walk away. But, I kind of give them that cautionary tale too, you can really sink your ship quick if you're not careful. I mean, just because you're trying to get cheap stuff or you just can't turn loose of things, if you buy it out from your wholesale account, you better be willing to sell it. So,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, for me, opening a shop wasn't as much necessarily about being around comic books all the time, which I still love, and I love toys, and I love the collectibles and the gaming, and I love all that, but it's still about being a business owner for me. That was kind of where my passion of it was I want to try being a business owner.
Yeah.
And so it's, and when you're a business owner, sometimes it's about making money.
Well, and it definitely shows, the interactions we've had in the shop, even over just Facebook, but it shows that you come from the demographic that you're also catering to, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have those passions
yeah.
that you totally understand and can communicate on that same like nerd passion level.
Oh yeah,
right. Because sometimes it's this. That's part of that kind of like the old store feel where it's like you can go in there and you can totally feel this nerd energy in there. And for me, it's super refreshing. It really is, because I get overwhelmed by the, you introduced me to the term geek chic, and I'd never really heard of that.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned that, I was like, that's completely what it is.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a different feel than that classic feel. And I love that classic feel so much. It just, to me, it's refreshing because the other vibe is out there everywhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's the Big Bang Theory really, I think, was like the pinnacle of the geek chic kind of time for fashion. And whether or not that's waning or if we're still got more of it to come, I don't know. It doesn't offend me. It doesn't, but it doesn't necessarily appeal to me either sometimes. It's like I'm going to get up every day. I'm going to put on a shirt that I like. I'm not going to put on a shirt necessarily to make a fashion statement. So it's an interesting idea that you can walk past or walk into, something like a Hot Topic and see the same kind of collectibles for sale in my store at that place.
Yeah.
And, or you can see it at Walmart or whatnot. And so, you try to kind of avoid some of that, similarities, but so you get even more niche-y inside the niche.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a struggle.
Well, and I've even said a few times on the show where it's interesting to be one of those more kind of grassroots nerds, I guess. Like we from back in the day when you were a little more shunned for being a nerd. It wasn't so openly accepted.
Yeah,
and
you weren't talking about your dice rolls at school.
No, right? Yeah.
When you were a freshman in high school, you're like, I want to talk about my 6th level druid. It's like,
yeah.
You're going to talk about your 6th level druid over there at that lunch table.
Yeah, right. I was just going to say.
With the other kids.
Yeah, there was a lunch table for that. Right?
I was at that lunch table.
Yeah. But there's also this appealing quality to where now that we've grown up and it's become more acceptable, it's so much more readily available, and it is everywhere, which is awesome. It has a little different feel to it, but I keep telling people, because I've talked to people that are almost like offended by that, right? Because it's like, it's not that original nerd vibe that was out there that we grew up with, and it's changing and this and that. It's like, that's just going to happen over time. But at the same time, I say go see your DC superhero movies, even though they haven't been quite as good. They did a lot better with Wonder Woman, but they're like, their string of them they haven't been quite as good. Go see all the Marvel ones, soak them up. I don't think they're going to last forever.
So, and even when they're not that great of movies, it's still cool to see your childhood brought to,
totally on the big screen. And soak it up, man. I really think we've only got, I mean, what do you think, like another 10 years before it'll start dying off, and then something else will start coming up again? Soak it up while it's there.
Oh, certainly. I know that, people are so resistant to change. Like Robert Downey Jr. is like, you couldn't have cast Iron Man any better than Robert Downey Jr.
There's no way.
But even he's like, I'm only doing like one more movie. He's like, before, and what was his quote? Like,
He's
before it
even said
becomes
that a few
embarrassing.
times. Yeah.
He's like, it's, he's getting older. And nobody's getting younger. I mean, I'm certainly not getting any younger. But people are so resistant to change. They can't fathom somebody else, playing that role that, embodies their childhood vision. Like looking at Superman, is a great example. I mean, for so many people, Christopher Reeve was Superman.
Yeah.
Like even in some of the comic books that they've done, like previous to New 52 and whatnot, they did like all these fantastic runs, and they drew him in the book to look like Christopher Reeves. They're beautiful books, and it's like, yeah, he just embodies that character so well.
He is the gold standard for Superman.
Yeah, he's the gold standard. It's like, once you have the gold standard, where do you go after that? Everything else is silver or less.
Yeah,
I think that can be changed though in comic books specifically because of the way it's you've got so many different arcs and so many different writers and artists.
Yeah, and building off of that, the new movies, I feel like an awful lot of the time I'm kind of on an island by myself. Like, I really like Superman Returns. I really did think it was a great next part of the chapter. I thought they casted the role well and whatnot, and people just couldn't get
the one-off guy who played Superman.
Yeah,
and it was. Who played Lex Luthor in that one? In the House of Cards, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey.
I
remember that one, yeah.
And, I had nothing wrong with his portrayal of Superman. I found problems with, it being kind of a same old reboot sort of movie, and that was where they fell short on it. And with the new stuff, like the Batman versus Superman and whatnot, I actually kind of like them. But, they've just got some storytelling problems. You look at, like, their extended cuts and whatnot, and they fix so many of the problems that they've had with them. And I think if DC has done anything wrong in the last, like Wonder Woman, they really knocked it out of the ballpark because people really, really wanted that movie to succeed, and so they went to the movie and they made sure it succeeded. And that's a big part of it too. Is if you want if you want more of that content, you have to support that content. And Wonder Woman was a prime example of that. That was like sitting in a movie theater full of starving people, and they were given a sandwich to like split amongst themselves. Like an entire, I mean, honestly, it's a fun movie. It's a really, really good message. I love the film, but it's still just a superhero film.
Yeah,
it's a superhero film with a great villain and a really, really great superhero in it. But being around all that so much of the time, for me, it was still, it's like, okay, it's a superhero story as a part of this larger enterprise. And the other films, to me, felt that role just as well. But with Wonder Woman, it's a movie that, we need more of. We need more of those, You know, it's like you guys are incredibly grateful and very supportive of this content, and that's very important. You need to demand more of that kind of content, and you need to support the comic books that spawned that content. You know, you need to go to your shops and you need to be picking up Batgirl, you know, Batwoman, you know, Teen Titans, you know, Supergirl. You need to be supporting those if you want to see more of that in the genre, making it into the movies.
Yeah.
You know, because it's going to be where they're going to be making movies where the money is. Like, how are they going to be able to sell memorabilia? You know, they want to see those memorabilia pieces selling, then they'll make a movie.
Yeah.
You know, because at the end of the day, they're in it to make money.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
The big companies.
But like you said, it's a storytelling issue, though, with what they've had, with what they've done, because we've both agree that Affleck, his portrayal of that Batman was really good.
I don't think it was really good. I think it was the best Batman we've ever had.
Okay, see?
That's quite the statement.
Yeah.
And I have been out of comic books. I never was really into comic books because I was told that they were a waste of money and I wasn't allowed to buy them. But, yeah, anyway.
Right?
Couldn't be more wrong, my friend.
Trip up to the shop, get a box.
That was my bringing up. And so he basically brought me back into it with the Dark Knight series.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was super amped for this movie to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And it just fell so short of what that story was. It didn't even begin to grasp how
The
good
Superman Batman.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think half the reason that movie failed so badly was it was just bad editing. I mean, I talked with Kevin McGuire, who's done comic books for many, many, many years, who's a fantastic creator. And every time I go to Emerald City Comic Con, I try to spend a little bit of time talking movies with that guy because he's a real movie buff. And we talked about Man of Steel for quite a little bit a few years ago. He really, really didn't like it. We talked about Superman versus Batman for a while. He really, really didn't like it. But then he came back on his social media after the release of the director's cut. He said, "This is a good movie."
I haven't seen that. I need to
After
watch
the director's cut, he goes, "This fixes the problems." Because they're all storytelling problems. They're all just sequential storytelling problems. And it's like, you've got a guy who's really nitpicky about his content, coming back and saying, "I hate it in one hand, I loved it in the other." Like Suicide Squad. I don't care what anybody likes it or hates it. I didn't like that movie because that thing was a disaster. Was as far as storytelling goes, it was just a real mess. It had some wonderful performances in it, but it was a disaster. As you know, and I think that's what we're going to see. What I'm fearing we were going to see more of, and I'm glad Wonder Woman wasn't that way, was that we were going to see these chopped up films that were for the theatrical cut, so they could fit that 90-minute time gap in the theater, or that 2-hour time gap in the theater, and then we would see a 3-hour cut on the shelf at Walmart.
Yeah.
And that seems like a really shady thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, because you're buying the movie 2 and 3 times at that point.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. You know, the movie that is the director's cut should be the movie that we see in the theater.
Yeah.
We should be seeing the full movie and not walking out going, wasn't that
Star
good?
Wars. I want that theatrical cut.
Yeah, I want to see.
Me too.
I want to see
the original without any digital garbage.
Yeah, it's like I want to see it the way it was intended to be, not the way the studio could rake in necessarily the most cash. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I'll pay to see it in the theater if it's a full cut, but you know, there's like some movies I won't go back and watch. Like the last Transformers movie, I wouldn't go see it because it's, you know.
I'm not gonna go see it. I couldn't do it. We watched the animated 80s cartoon one instead.
Nice.
We
Yeah,
were going to review it. We watched
Right
that
on.
one and came back and we were like, we were going to review that. We said, screw it. Go watch this. It's on DVD. It's still in like the old aspect ratio. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack for that movie.
Boy,
buddy.
that I'll say this about that old movie. That was traumatizing as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're watching that first 10 minutes of the movie, you're like Ironhide.
Yeah. All of them, right? It's like so devastating for all of them.
Yeah,
I remember that too.
Just eviscerate all of your favorite characters.
Right?
You're like, what do you guys
It's like that G.I. Joe
before?
thing, though, that you were talking about, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
they totally just suddenly we weren't little kids anymore, and they were they brutalized it. It's awesome.
Oh, they did, yeah.
It's such a good classic movie.
It is.
Well, I kind of want to wrap it up. It was awesome to have you here to join us on the show.
Is there any other questions?
Really,
I can answer? Anything else I can babble on about?
Well, I would like to, if you're down and you're not sick of us.
I'm not sick at all.
We'll do a little after party.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, people, and we'll talk even about more nerd. We can talk more about Marvel, DC, movie, whatever we want. After parties, there's no rules. We throw them all out the window.
It's gonna get weird.
Yep. So thank you,
Keep
Dan.
your shirt on.
Yeah.
Oh.
And your pants. Okay, just
Dang
because
it.
nobody can see them, keep the pants on.
Man.
So please,
I wore Spider-Man undershorts for.
please shrink the
make it
screen.
No.
And hit subscribe and like. It really helps us out. We're really striving for those 100 subscribers. We got some more. We're getting close to halfway there. Really appreciate it, everybody.
Yep.
If you want, you can go to patreon.com/nerdbuzzed. Get yourself a $35 swag bag where you get a sweet t-shirt. Jeremiah's modeling one today. You can see it behind the rest of our stuff. And you get some stickers and a magnet. Pretty sweet deal. Do it.
Check them
Yeah,
out.
Dan got hooked up or be a guest
Check
on the
'em
show.
out.
And please go check out Docking Bay 93.
Yes, please.
In Mount Vernon
Come
on
visit me.
Stewart Street. Set up a Dropbox. It's super convenient. Message him on Facebook. He'll put the comics in there for you. It's really, really awesome. I love your store. Thank you,
You know
so
what?
much for joining us.
And just an open invite. Just come hang out.
Yeah.
It's cool. We have hangout space. That's what it's for.
Oh, yeah. That
Just
was
come
one
hang
thing
out.
I did want to ask you about the different themes you have for the different days. Because I'm going to come up and do the free draw Sunday. I really do want to do
Yeah.
that.
So on our normal schedule, we do Magic the Gathering modern format on Mondays. Tuesdays we do board game night. It's been a little light lately,
Oh, my
but
alpha
I
cards
imagine
won't
that when
work,
school
huh?
starts, it'll start going again. Wednesdays is the Dungeons and Dragons League, and anybody can play that. If you've never played D&D before and you just want to try it out, that's what it's for. Come down at 5 o'clock. We'll get you set up with a DM, and they'll tell you how to play, and play from 6 till 9. Thursdays we do Hero Clicks, which is the little superhero miniature game. It's got the little clicky bases. There's not a lot of math involved. It's just super simple and straightforward. We get a good crowd for that every Thursdays. Fridays we do Friday Night Magic again. We do booster drafts and we do standard format. Then Saturdays and Sundays we kind of rotate events around. Sometimes we have events, sometimes we don't. But the store's always open and everybody's always welcome. So.
Yeah, I'd really like to just encourage that mentality.
Yeah.
Like with the, like if you've never played the D&D, go for that night. It's a great
Yeah.
time to try it for, I think
Oh,
there's
you could
so
try it,
many.
Yeah, come down and check out the arcade. I mean, literally, like, every machine in there is 1/4 a play, except for a couple of them. There's a few of the new pinball machines are 50 cents, and the Pac-Man Battle Royale is 50 cents a player.
Yeah.
You will not find cheaper pinball anywhere in the state.
Yeah, no, I super encourage everybody to go, especially if you're on the fence with the nerdy stuff. I know we've had a lot of viewers that have commented that I never thought I was a nerd, and then I started watching your show, and I think I might be a nerd.
And lo and behold,
Yeah, so,
look at you now.
And I think your shop is perfect for those people because it's so, again, it's just refreshing. It's got that just old school nerd vibe to it, and you're gonna get nerd on such an honest level. It's really cool. So
Well, we appreciate everybody, so
definitely
come down and visit us.
So check them out. Thank you for joining us. I got a little bit of mead. Dan needs a little more mead.
I'm
Hook him
out.
up.
Well, we're going to finish with the citrus.
Excellent.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to trying it.
And we'll heat up some more water for the after party.
Sounds delightful.
So one last time. To
To
all the nerds,
through
through
all the fuzz, bottoms up, let's get nerd buzzed. Go.
Talking about beer, talking about nerd
That's my favorite.
culture.
And thank you,
Here
Eric.
on
Go
Nerdbuzzed.
check out Aesir Meadery and Document 93.
Marcus and Jeremiah.
It's more Canadian.
You're on Nerdbuzzed. Let's get nerd buzzed.